we're going to have fun with this one today because Will Ospreay said some things, and as always, the internet melted down. But I'm going to read it, right? Because it's important to get the context here, and it comes from an interview that Will Ospreay did with the Daily Star. I've got it down here. Because he said, I think deep down we know WWE is a machine and an animal. They're in giant stadiums and doing so good. A lot of people look at us and think we're doing it wrong because WWE is doing this, but no, there are different ways of doing it. I got into WWE when I was a kid, but when I became a teenager, I thought it was lame. There were certain guys I enjoyed, like Eddie Guerrero, Edge, Randy Orton is sick, but after a while I was like, this is so pantomiming. People would go, especially coming up in wrestling, less is more. But is it? I'm bored. It's the same stuff recycled over and over again. Every now and again you would get something cool like the CM Punk Pipe Bomb promo. WWE are definitely on fire now, but even as a viewer, as a wrestler, I just don't enjoy it. I haven't watched WrestleMania. From what I'd heard, it wasn't the best WrestleMania. Maybe Io, Rhea, and Bianca had the only sick match, and the three of them are sick. He means in a skill level, not that they're ill. They are three of the best wrestlers, period. For me, I was just never a WWE guy. I respect it, and I respect the guys doing it. That schedule is crazy, and they are commendable for doing it. He went on to say, I don't like the style of wrestling, I don't like the presentation, but it has gotten better. I love the one-shots they do, but I've just never been a big fan of it. When AEW came along and they went with the more sports-based style, it was something I could sink my teeth into. And even all of it isn't sports-based at all because there's more presentation. When Hangman comes out with the Dark Order by his side, for example, that segment still gives me goosebumps. So of course I respect WWE and I admire everybody there, and I think a lot of people think I hate Triple H, but I don't. I've never met the guy before in my life. There's always going to be a little bit of rivalry there because it's like, yeah, you guys are the biggest and you guys draw the bigger houses and you've got the bigger deals, but the moment the bell rings, I think we're better than all of them. On my worst day, I'm better than a lot of guys in the ring. In terms of promos, well, you got a bunch of guys. Punk is sick, Roman is sick. There are still things I do need to catch up on, but in the ring, I genuinely don't think there is anyone from that side that matches anybody of our guys. Now listen, that's quite a big quote, but it's absolutely important we get the context there because we do need to break it down like we're in Degeneration X. Now for starters, this is an employee of AEW defending the company, not too dissimilar to what Seth Rollins was doing back in 2019. I have nothing wrong with that. In fact, I think it's nice, and I think more people should do this, especially if they are passionate about where they work. But also, he didn't say anything wrong there because it's just his opinion. And this goes back to the crazy old tribalistic argument that everybody continues to have. I can tell you firsthand, I love WWE and I love AEW. I love the fact on a Monday and a Friday I can get the WWE style. On the Wednesday, I can get the AEW style. It's not always perfect. Sometimes both companies do drop the ball. You're like, oh my gosh, what is going on? But by and large, wrestling right now, I think is more enjoyable than ever. For example, let's go back to last year. The WrestleMania 40 main event between Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes, the second half of that is sports entertainment perfection. I was 10 years old again. I was having the best time of my life. I just felt good. And in that year, you also had Bryan Danielson versus Will Ospreay, which in terms of gritty, real, quote unquote, for lack of a better term, whatever you want to call it, new age modern wrestling is brilliant too. I've gone back and watched both of these over and over again, depending on what mood I'm on. It just ties into music too. I'm a big metal fan. You give me the heaviest metal possible and I'll be happy, but sometimes I'll stick on Billie Eilish. Sometimes I'll stick on some orchestral stuff. It all depends on what my brain wants. And if Will Ospreay, which you can quite clearly see from his in-ring style, I mean, you could actually argue he has been the reason that we've gotten to this point. There is such a thing as a Will Ospreay match, and he is brilliant at it. Nobody can do it as good as Will Ospreay. He's a generational talent, and in terms of what he does do, he's one of the best ever. I don't even think there's an argument for that. But of course, the caveat to that is, if you don't like it, that's totally cool. If you were brought up on WWE, and that's what you gravitated towards, and has made you a wrestling fan for life, you are allowed to stand there with your big WWE flag and be like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing I've ever seen. And at times it is, and at times it isn't. And at times AEW is the best thing ever, and at times it isn't. Remember that night that Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole both joined? That was the most WWE thing ever, but it was totally cool. So all of a sudden people like to turn this into a war. They like to see people taking sides. I just think Will Ospreay, especially for the last few years, has been as honest as he can be. And listen, we know he had the option to go to WWE. We knew he'd choose AEW, and his goal, I guess, is to take the style of wrestling, to use that term again that he does do, and popularize it as much as possible. Now, of course, is when people go, yes, but the WWE style is more popular. It doesn't matter. Unless you are a shareholder or you are the money in AEW or WWE, who gives a flub what's happening business-wise? I'm talking about it from a fan's perspective. I want to enjoy as many different assets of this crazy form of entertainment that I can. And I like what AEW does. And I think they are profitable. I mean, I want to say for sure because I'm not a money guy, but that last TV deal, from everything I have read, from all sorts of news reports, have claimed they have money for days. And that's great. And even if it does start going the other way, as long as I can sit there and watch it and go, oh, I'm having a good time, that's the be all and end all. It's why WCW in 2000 2000 was horrendous if you were watching it. I was always a WWE guy before a WCW guy, but I did enjoy WCW. I was pretty much the same person back then as I am now. In the year 2000, like, it's hilarious today because they already died. But if you didn't want that company to go out of business, it was like, we got to stop doing this because the creative was terrible. Like, you would have no DQ matches that ended in disqualifications and tag team champions that would just change their partner because I can't be bothered. Why the flub not? Once more, you watch it now, you'll have tears in your eyes, but that's not what they were going for. They thought this was good stuff. They put Judy Bagwell on a forklift. But I want Will Ospreay to say this stuff. I want him to be as honest with me as possible, especially in a 2025 age. If we're talking about celebrities or sportsmen or sportswomen, whatever term you want to use, it's so dull when you get a media PR interview. I love to know that what he's doing is what he wants to do. When Seth Rollins comes out and talks about how he loves the stuff he wants to do, great. CM Punk is the best at this. I always feel like I know where I stand with CM Punk. Drew McIntyre's led into that. The Rock does it. Roman Reigns. There'll be other people on the AEW side. Swerve Strickland. And of course you can dislike and like what they do say, but I don't think this is a shot at WWE. In fact, I think he went out of his way to say what he does like about WWE, the in-ring promos, which is something he is trying to get better at, and I do think he's improved immensely since he's come to the United States of America. It's just, I find it mad when people go, oh, he's taking shots at WWE. What's the shot? AEW wrestler prefers AEW, so went to AEW. And Seth Rollins may come out and say something too, because he is a hardened defender of WWE, which again, I appreciate. And he'll say the same thing, nobody can touch our guys. And I think there's arguments both sides, depending, once again, it's like a broken record now, what you want. Like that main event night one, a weird way to say it, at WrestleMania 41, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and CM Punk, the Paul Heyman on a pole match, is flipping brilliant. And they mentioned the three-way for the women is flipping brilliant. And there'll be matches of the last AEW pay-per-view that I'm not even thinking about right now that were flipping brilliant because AEW pay-per-views in terms of consistency have been better than the television show. They're always awesome. They're too long for my taste, but there you go. Does that mean all of a sudden they should be shrunk to 3 hours? No. You should look at your entire fan base and decide what you want to do. So I appreciate the honesty. I love when people talk about this. I love to know Will Ospreay stands mentally when it comes to his pro wrestling, and I think it's legitimate. Like, if this was a troll, which also some people do, you'd be able to feel it. Like around the same time the Randy Orton interview came out where he said, listen, when I did lose Kevin Owens at WrestleMania, I pushed for Joe Hendry. Some people didn't want to do it. I'm so happy we got to do this. And that was awesome too. What a wonderful moment for Joe Hendry, who is going to have an experience that 99.79% of all professional wrestlers would be desperate to have. So more of this. Let's not stop it. The only thing that does ruin it is when all of a sudden it becomes really horrible and aggressive and mean on social media. But as I did want to make a video about AEW Dynamite today, and Will Ospreay was essentially at the center of the episode, I was like, man, I am just going to talk about it too. So WWE, please keep doing your thing. I'm very excited about Backlash this weekend. I'm super excited about Double or Nothing in a couple of weeks and their Saturday's main event. And then we get into All In. It's all just good stuff. And we're going to get Will Ospreay versus Hangman Adam Page, which is where I will stop my first rant and move into my second rant. You could argue this was a very WWE style skit. Opening promo, as we all know. Hangman Adam Page admits that he hated Swerve, but now realizes he's got to move on. So, he has done that, which is why he has been able to be successful in the Owen. Out comes Will Ospreay. Well, I'm sorry, bro. You might be trying to redeem yourself, but I'm trying to ascend. I'm going to beat you. I'm going to be the world champion. Out comes Don Callis and says, man, I hate both of you. We're going to do a tag team match next week. And listen, that's a wrestling trope that I could do without. But as long as Will Ospreay and Hangman Adam Page lose, it's totally fine. Like, the Don Callis family are a unit, so I always think they should win. And if you are trying to build animosity for Will and Hangman at the pay-per-view, they can lose here. They can fall out and not coexist, blah, blah, blah. There you go. There's something that both people do. Sometimes you do have random teams get together and they beat proper teams. And I don't like it. But do I care? Not really. I watch it and move on because it's not going to affect my life. It's just a small story beat that when I do sit there and ponder on it, I'm like, yeah, we probably could have done that a little bit better. But it was a great promo. Will Ospreay has found his feet with this. He comes across as very genuine, and Hangman Adam Page is just one of the deepest characters we have in all of pro wrestling. Really. Once more, it may not be for you, but I like that he's nuanced, and I like he's not really a good guy or a bad guy. He walks the line. We then went into our first match, which was the women's four-way, and I talked about this on Ups and Downs. Make sure you check that out over What Culture Wrestling, who I freelance for. Subscribe to them and subscribe to me as well. But I'm a bit done with these Tony Storm Eliminator matches, especially when you have someone like Thunder Rosa in the four-way fighting for a championship opportunity. And I love Thunder Rosa. She is genuinely somebody I consider a friend, so it's something about her specifically. But she fell out of the Owen Hart tournament. She lost, and now she's getting another title title shot before that tournament is rounded up. Again, it's just a logic thing that my brain picks up on, but then you do Toni Storm, Thunder Rosa, Penelope Ford, and who was the fourth person? Anna Jay, and it's a barrel of laughs. It's so damn good. The Megan Bayne and Harley Cameron stuff worked really well, especially because Harley Cameron had a pipe, and Toni Storm won it, which is quite a daring thing to do. Like, usually you set up these eliminators because we do have a pay-per-view in a couple of weeks, and you want to put Toni Storm on there. But no, I think she's 11-0 and 12-0 in title eliminators, and just keep her off the pay-per-view. You can have her cut a promo, have her do a backstage skit, have her come out after the final of Mercedes Moné versus Jamie Hayter, and that's how you get her onto the show. But listen, to do what we talked about, something that WWE does do very well at the moment is if it doesn't feel like a champion needs to be on a PLE, they don't do it, and AEW absolutely should have the confidence to do that as well, because they know what else they're presenting is going to be awesome. We also had the sit-down interview with Jamie Hayter. We should do more of these because they're very Jim Ross-esque, and Jim Ross did a great job in getting people's personalities out. And I thought this is the best that Jamie Hayter had done, but I still think there's more that we can do here so she gets more comfortable with these kind of situations. The point is, though, she's nothing like Mercedes Moné. She's got truth and kit. Mercedes sort of hides behind this facade, this ego that she's made up. Mercedes Moné then attacks Jamie Hayter. They big brawl into the crowd. Mercedes Moné stands tall. Next week, Jamie Hayter will stand tall because I do believe Mercedes Moné is going to win. And then All In, you do Mercedes Moné versus Toni Storm. I presume title versus title. You don't have to do that. You can just put the World Championship on the line. Mercedes Moné is a heel and she can refuse. I don't know whether that makes it more likely that she will win or lose is the real question. I don't know. But it'd be a great match. It will have jeopardy because, of course, Mercedes Moné hasn't lost and Toni Storm rarely loses. And I think if All In is going to become a WrestleMania type event, which it is on its way to doing, you need to load things up. So it probably is going to be Will Ospreay versus Jon Moxley, a Mercedes versus Toni Storm, and Okada versus Kenny Omega. Like, Kenny Omega wasn't on this show, and I thought that was unfortunate. That's the one thing maybe I think AEW could do more. I think there should be like 5 or 6 people that are just on every single show. But it could be on Collision, though, so that then balances it out. But that is something that WWE does well. I know if I go to Raw, I'm seeing these guys. If I don't go to SmackDown, I'm seeing these guys. If I had gone to this Dynamite, I would have been sad not to see Kenny Omega. But it's a point to be made. It's a point to be had. I think MJF and the Hurt Syndicate is some of the best wrestling story stuff we've got at the moment, which kind of flies in the face of people that go, oh, they don't have stories in AEW. Once again, you can think it's total pap. That's perfectly fine. But, you know, MJF, also Bobby Lashley told MJF, you got to hurt people. So when Top Flight come out to say, we will take on your hurt business, MJF whooped both their asses, killed Dante with his powerbomb on the apron. It was horrible. Now listen, there's a criticism to have there. I wouldn't have it in the sense, how did MJF able to do this? But he did jump them and punch them with a Dynamite diamond ring. He then screams he hurts people at the Hurt Syndicate, and now there's going to be a lawyer involved, and Bobby Lashley's going to tell him next week in the oldest wrestling trope in the world. I'm now starting to think that Cedric Alexander may be coming in. I think he's a free agent now, and that would keep MJF out of the group and allow them to feud with them in some sense. And I get it, you go, well, who's going to be the babyface and who's going to be the heel? But both of them meant to be heels and getting cheered now anyway. I think because there is depth here and because the characters allow for it, you do go full shades of grey. That's what you do, and you allow the audience to decide. Because up to this point, it's kind of been confusing, not the right word, but it's sort of 50-50, but I still really enjoyed it. So it goes to show, if you have that scenario and you can lean into it, it can work. So what's the problem with that? Also loved Okada versus Kevin Knight, again, done with the title eliminator stuff, but the match itself was great. Roosh made sure to attack Kevin Knight so they can now do stuff on Collision. Okada is just a barrel of laughs to me. A lot of people go, oh, he's not the Okada he used to be, but probably if he was the Okada he used to be, he would be done by now. How is he going to keep that schedule up? Think how broken his body must have been. So he was able to make a ton of money, relax, rest up, and do matches like this, and do the Kenny Omega match in Texas. I ain't got a problem with it. It was super entertaining. Poor Mike Bailey had to keep coming out to save Kevin Knight, so I bet he regrets that relationship. And the party match between, who was it? The Young Bucks and Ricochet, taking on Mark Briscoe, Mike Bailey, and Swerve Strickland. I never want it to go away. I think these are probably the most divisive things that AEW does. People compare them to PWG and nobody sells. It doesn't make any sense. None of that stuff has ever affected me because I watch people with amazing timing doing incredibly athletic things and ping-ponging around the place. It doesn't need to be something that I'm still talking about in 2 months' time. I just need to enjoy it for the 10 to 15 minutes it is on my TV. It makes me feel warm and fuzzy in my tum-tum. I think the Ricochet heel character is great. I think the Young Bucks are as good now as they were in 2021. That's a massive compliment. Mike Bailey is fit into AEW like a glove. Mark Briscoe is just the most beloved babyface ever. And Swerve Strickland has turned himself into such a top guy. He is able to lose with the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up, and he's totally fine, he's totally protected. We're building to some kind of big stipulation match here, like a blood and guts or an anarchy in arena, whatever the flub, and it's going to be awesome. The good guys will win. No issue with that. And then we end with Claudio Castagnoli taking on Samoa Joe. Two guys that I love more than I love myself, which is not a compliment because I hate myself, more than I love my own mother. But it's just, we know their journey. Samoa Joe is one of the GOATs. I think Claudio is one of the most underrated wrestlers ever. I don't think people understand how good he is. They throw each other around. There were some excellent spots with Barry Barricade and using brute strength, and the finish was just so smooth, my head would be embarrassed. Claudio goes to the big swing. Samoa Joe boots him, effortlessly grabs his pants, puts him in the Kikina clutch, and he wins. And now we're doing Samoa Joe versus Jon Moxley next week, and Samoa Joe won't win, but I would never say that with any form of uncertainty because he's so believable and he's so good at what he does. He has convinced enough of me, at 4.792% of my left knee, that he's probably going to walk away with the AEW World title when, of course, Jon Moxley has to hold it to All In. When he drops it to a Will Ospreay or Hangman Adam Page, I think it will be a Will Ospreay. Powerhouse Hobbs comes out with the chair to stop the Death Riders. They all look at each other. They then get the payback on Claudio, who had destroyed Hook and Shibata, doing the same. Samoa Joe lifts up the chair. Next week it's Beach Break, and we're doing all these amazing matches. I just think it was a fun show. I think over the last 6 to 8 weeks, maybe, AEW has found the momentum again. People then go, but the ratings suck. I don't care about the ratings. I don't care what the ratings say. I don't care what Steve or Brian or June or Julie thinks about AEW. I care what I think about it. It's my time. One day I'm going to be dead. I choose to use 2 hours of my time to watch AEW Dynamite. So if I think it's good, awesome. And if the rating does come in and it's low, I shrug my shoulders and go, well, that's interesting and something to debate, but it kind of ends there. And it has gone back up to 600,000. And it wasn't the 500,000 mark, and we don't know what it's doing on Max. Maybe only one person watches on Max, and his name is Max. I don't care. It makes no difference to my existence whatsoever, and I feel ridiculous that I have to caveat when I say I like Dynamite with that, but that's the response I get. Great, Simon, but the ratings told you otherwise. It's like saying I can't enjoy an indie movie that barely makes any money because it has to be a big blockbuster like The Avengers. Let's not talk about The Avengers. That's a whole new conversation, but right now I just think pro wrestling is in a great space. I came out of WrestleMania a little bit exhausted because there is so much to consume. But now I feel like we're getting back into it. And look at the craziness we're in. I get Will Ospreay versus Hangman Adam Page, a match I didn't even know existed sort of 10 years ago. And at that time when I was alive, I'm also assuming I'll never get John Cena versus Randy Orton again. I'm never going to get with heel John Cena and good guy Randy Orton. And that's what we're doing on Saturday night. I'm a happy man. I like professional wrestling. I feel blessed that I get to make content like this. So long live all of the wrestlers on either sides to speak their truths, to use 2025 speak, and be honest with me and tell me what they like and they don't like, which is what we're doing all of the time. But there is no proper answer. Wrestling would suck without AEW. Wrestling would suck without WWE. It would suck without New Japan. It would suck without TNA. It creates an ecosystem and it creates a landscape where you can pick and choose every single day, and I don't think we need to criticize that. Now, of course, you're going to get super mad at me, so do it in the comments and like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Click the video on the screen, which are my backlash predictions. See how bad I am at predicting this stuff. And otherwise, just muck with those belt buttons there, you know, subscription and notification, etc. Otherwise, I promise you, go to GorillaMind.com/Simon. You go to Simon to get 10% and sometimes more % off. It ships worldwide. These are amazing supplements. Otherwise, I wouldn't talk about them. And I am affiliated with them, which goes, Simon, you get some money. Yes, because I'm an integral person, or at least that's very important to me. The only one way to find out. Also, you can get dumb shirts like this, Baldy, Nobody Tell Aldi, at ProWrestlingTees.com/Simon Miller and Simon Miller, BigCartel.com with a dot in there. Otherwise, go to Cameo, just search my name, Simon Miller. We are doing super cheap cameos for a long old time because I'd like to do more and I'd like to offer them a more, not fair price, but a cheaper price. So check them out, otherwise I'll put them back up. What was the point? Simon J. Miller on TikTok for dumb wrestling skits. And I think that's everything. Check out all my links down there and please do come and support me because I do appreciate it. And thank you for allowing me to rant today. I just love pro wrestling and like I say, the environment right now is better than ever. We don't want it to go away. I'll see you soon.